The macro searched best way to dispose of a body. How long missing to be dead? And you throw away body parts.
You will hear evidence in this case of sudden, unexplained death. You will hear evidence that it is real. You will hear evidence that it happens.
I don't want to hide anything from you because if that could lead to finding my wife sooner, that's the most important thing. I want to hear my wife. I love my wife.
Sudden, unexplained death. That's Brian Walsh's theory on what happened to his wife, Anna. Did you buy it? And will Walsh have to take the stand to sell his theory to the jury? We'll talk about it. Plus, how common is this sudden unexplained death? We're digging deeper with a doctor on the show live this morning. Also this hour, Bahama Mama Lindsay Shiver wants her ankle monitor off so that she can start a new career as an influencer. So will she sway the court with those arguments ahead of her upcoming trial? And Luigi Mangione is back in court this week, and his supporters are showing up in full force. They're speaking out about the accused assassin. We'll talk about how their support could tip the scales of justice. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. And we planned a big show for you, my friends. So let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea or wherever you're having right now. It's time for my opening statement. Let's go against all logic. You find your spouse in the bed that you share completely unresponsive. So what's the most logical thing to do next? Call 911, right? You try to get your spouse some help, right? What's the most illogical thing you could do? Take her down to your basement, dismember her, dispose of her remains around the city where your family lives, and then lie to the police about it and pretend that she went missing. That is quite a leap to go from finding your spouse unresponsive to not getting them any medical attention either, to then going through the Herculean effort of cutting up their body and illegally disposing of it. No funeral, no mourning, just a hacksaw and trash bags for the one that you love. Give me a break. That animal, Brian Walshe, is dangerous. He is a diabolical, dangerous defendant who lied with so much ease, it ought to frighten anybody who heard the tape of his police interview. I knew that he and his team were going to challenge the causation in Anna's death in some way. I was thinking maybe they might say there was a heated argument. Maybe there was some shoving during the argument. Maybe it resulted in an accidental slip and fall with a head injury. That would make a little more sense to me than she died suddenly, so I dismembered her. That's the defense. Beautiful, smart mother of three, Anna Walshe deserved so much better. My heart breaks for everybody who is mourning her death, and it breaks especially for her three boys, who now will likely grow up without both of their parents. That's my opening statement on this Tuesday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
What we have is a human being whose right to a fair, unbiased trial has been tarnished from the get-go. There's so much conjecture about this case that it really would be impossible for him to have a jury of his peers. And so I'm really hoping for jury nullification.
Jury nullification, how about it? In New York, we've got defendant Luigi Mangione back in court for day 2 of his suppression hearing. He's accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in broad daylight. The hearing is going to resume at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Also coming up at 9 a.m., opening statements expected to start in the murder trial for former pageant queen Trinity Pogue. She's on trial in Georgia for the murder of her boyfriend's toddler, little baby Jackson. And in Massachusetts, we've got day 2 of Brian Walsh's murder trial resuming this morning. And that is, of course, our top story. Testimony starting in less than an hour from now. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson is there with the latest from Massachusetts.
Julie, good morning. Today is day 2 of testimony in the murder case against Brian Walshe, and we expect the lead detective to be called back to the stand. On Monday, the courtroom was packed as attorneys delivered opening statements. The jury of 7 men and 9 women took notes as prosecutors described defendant Brian Walshe as a desperate man facing prison time for art fraud and killed and dismembered his wife, Anna Walshe, for money.
Can you throw away body parts? How to saw a body? How to dismember a body? Can you be charged with murder without a body?
Walsh's defense claims the couple was in love and that he panicked after he discovered his wife was dead.
You will hear evidence in this case of sudden, unexplained death. You will hear evidence that it is rape. You will hear evidence that it happens. It is to this day not well understood, and that is the evidence you will hear. And it is not well known to non-medical professionals. And you will hear evidence Brian Walshe never imagined somebody would suddenly die.
The jury also heard the defendant, in his own words, lying to investigators after her disappearance, which we know is a lie because he had pleaded guilty to disposing of her body. Walshe faces life behind bars if convicted of murder. Prosecutors project the trial to last a few weeks. Julie.
All right, our thanks to Matt Johnson for that update. So we know the defense theory now. Do you believe it? Will the jury believe it? And will he have to testify in order to make the jury believe it? Let's talk about all these things. Let's bring in the man who used to head up the homicide unit in the county where this trial is happening. So this could have been his case years ago. Attorney Rick Grundy is with us. He's in the private sector now, as well as celebrity attorney Ben Chu. You saw him win the landmark case, Depp versus Heard, representing Johnny Depp. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Rick. Great to have you both on the program. All right, let's start with your reactions, and then we're going to progress to whether he needs to testify. Rick, start us off, please. What did you think of this defense theory when it was unveiled?
Well, it's an interesting situation. This defense attorney's clearly backed into a corner. This fabricated story is over the moon as far as any kind of credibility is concerned. One of the interesting things is they went for the home run here. And as you said in your opening statements, a more plausible fabrication would be that there was a sudden explosion of emotions that led to some altercation that led to her death. But he's going for the home run. He's going for a not guilty as opposed to a lesser included here. And that really is where he has just strained any credibility to what he's got to say. So the defense attorney looks at his case, and he's got all of these mountain of evidence against him, plus he's now got a con man. And the interesting thing was the prosecution's approach yesterday was simply to push a button, sit back, and listen to hours of this individual calmly talking about the woman that he dismembered just a day ago. So it's, if we had the death penalty in Massachusetts, this may have been a plea, but they've got nothing to lose and a glimmer of hope in their own minds, I guess, of something to gain.
A glimmer of hope. I like that, Rick Grundy. Ben Chu, to you next, please. What did you think when you heard this defense theory given in the open?
Julie, I think in the spirit of the Christmas and Hanukkah season, Rick was being unduly kind to defense counsel. I think this is an outrageous theory. They're hoping that the jury, the jury may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. This is not going to fly. It's completely implausible and insulting.
I agree. Rick is such a nice guy. And yeah, I mean, this defense attorney, I do feel sorry for this defense attorney. And I've heard, Rick, that he's very well respected in Boston. He's very good at what he does. And, you know, he's trying. But, boy, he doesn't have much to work with here with all these lies Brian Walshe told. Let's listen to some of them now. Let's listen to some of that tape that came in through the first witness.
One of the reasons someone goes missing is because they were abused or injured or assaulted. Did you do anything to hurt your wife?
No, that's right. I wouldn't hurt my wife. I mean, I love my wife. All we want is to have her back. This family doesn't work without her. I mean, we can't function without her.
You guys never had a physical fight? Nothing like that before?
No, not at all.
Pants on fire, right? Rick Grundy, let's talk about what this was like when the case opens up and the evidence starts coming in, and the first thing the jury is served is all his lies on that tape with the detective. How uncomfortable do you think it must have been for him to be sitting there listening to those lies in front of the 12 people that are going to judge him?
Well, I don't think it was uncomfortable enough for him, and I think the jurors may think the same. You're sitting there listening to his children in the background of the woman that he just dismembered hours ago, and he's sitting rather calm and coolly at the defense table, not breaking down, not having a tear in his eye for those children that, as you said, are soon to be orphaned for all practical purposes. I'll make one note with respect to the counsel in this case on both sides. Larry Tipton is a very well-respected homicide defense attorney. He's been doing it for years, and he knows what he's doing, and he's doing what he has to do. On the other side, it's interesting because unlike in the Karen Reed trial, you have two attorneys there, not the lead attorney, but two attorneys there that are veterans going back to my time in the office, Ann Yaz and Tracy Cusack, Tracy being the current head of the Appeals Bureau. So the Norfolk District Attorney's Office is taking no chances. I suspect the DA has a go bag by his door, because if he loses this one, he's got to get out of town.
Yeah, you're so right, Rick. You know, and you could tell they were far more seasoned. You could tell just watching the states open. It was very, very good yesterday. You can see that these are attorneys who have been in the trenches, and they know what they're doing. Thank goodness for that. The stakes are high. Let's talk about whether Brian Walshe has to testify. What do we think? We know he's got the right, of course, to testify or not to. A jury can't hold it against him. But with this theory, what do we think he's going to do? Ben Chu, I want to go to you on this one, please.
Julie, I think he's got Hobson's choice. I think the logic of what you're saying is right. If he's going to try to sell this ridiculous theory he has, then he really needs to explain it, and he has to really bring it in a way that at least one or two jurors will buy. On the other hand, as you found in your trials and Rick finds, there's nothing like audio or video evidence, and those statements that he made that the jury heard is just going to be so damning and can be used on cross. So I think he's not going to testify. I think that the downside is too high. I don't see any way forward for him.
Right. That's a good, solid prediction, Ben. Rick, what do you predict is going to happen with Brian Walshe?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Ben, and I think that's part of the rationale in going for the ultimate home run here of a not guilty as opposed to a lesser included, to get that evidence that would substantiate a lesser included, whether it's mixing in a self-defense or a sudden heated passion. He would have to get up and testify. There is no evidence of that coming in based on his litany of lies that we're hearing presented to the jury.
Exactly. Yeah, he's sunk. He should just rely on the good counsel that he has and keep praying with those rosary beads. Did you see he was clutching rosary beads yesterday? We'll see if he does it again today. Great analysis from you both. We want some more. Ben, Rick, stand by, please. Friends at home, don't go anywhere. We're digging deeper into this sudden unexplained death theory the defense has postured here. We got a doctor coming on the show in just a little while. But first,
Lindsay, your reaction to going home?
Behind the bar.
Lindsay, any comment for your family back home, your boys? How about Robert? Any message for Robert? Are you going to be able to see your kids for Christmas? Lindsay, your reaction to going home? Your message for the boys?
oh, the Bahama Mama, Lindsay Shiver. She is back trending in true crime as she wants to pursue a career as an influencer. And she's asking the judge to have them remove her ankle monitor. The disappearance of mother Anna Walshe.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair.
The massive trail of evidence.
This incredible timeline of Google searches.
It shows everything that was in his mind.
He searched how long before a body starts to smell.
The disappearance of Anna Walshe murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Where's your husband been staying?
Oh, at my house.
Okay.
It's a lovely situation.
So he just isn't home? He hasn't come home yet? Okay.
The situation between Lindsay and Robert Shiver has been anything but lovely. Well, now the former housewife is asking the court to help revive her modeling career. The former pageant queen accused of ordering a hit on her estranged husband, Robert, is set to go to trial in March for those alleged crimes in the Bahamas. But in the meantime, she's asking the court if she can have her, what she says is her embarrassing GPS monitor removed so that she can become a social media influencer and model. In an exclusive interview with the Daily Mail, Lindsay Shiver claims to have several job offers and needs the ankle monitor removed before she can start doing that modeling work. She's also requesting to move back to Thomasville, Georgia, where she shared that home with Robert and their children in order to get these job offers. So we're asking, will her job offers and modeling and influencing aspirations influence the court to remove her ankle monitor? Let's bring in our guest. I have with me in the studio comedian and media entrepreneur Rachel LaForce. Joining me remotely, celebrity attorney Ben Chu and retired NYPD and Nassau County Police Lieutenant, the owner of Houndstown, USA, Mike Gould. Good morning to you all. Rachel LaForce, ladies first, please. I want to start with you. Your thoughts?
You know, I'll tell you what, as a content creator, I'm like, keep the ankle bracelet. You know, that's your niche. Everybody's a model. Everybody's an influencer. You know, use that niche, wear that ankle bracelet, you know? And we don't know yet if she actually conspired to kill her husband, but I definitely know she's guilty of being high maintenance. You know, this is quite a request. So I'm really interested to see how the judge will take this in, the seriousness versus if you can see the comedic side of it and really where they're going to land on this, I think is going to be interesting to watch.
Yes, yes. And you're exactly right, Rachel. You're saying what we're all thinking. This is ridiculous. My gosh. Lieutenant Gould, your thoughts on her wanting that monitor off so she can go model?
Yeah. As Rachel said, there is a comedic aspect of this. My first reaction was it's laughable. You know, the discomfort of an ankle bracelet compared to her Gucci shoes really, you know, touches home with me, and I can relate deeply with that. But you know, when I think about this selfishness, she's out on $100,000 bail. She's facing 60 years in a Bahamian prison, and we have American veterans, U.S. veterans, that don't have ankles to complain about. So this is just, on one end it's funny, and on the other end it's really disturbing her narcissism in this. And that's my view of this. It's way out of line.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you, Lieutenant. Ben Chu, you're a legal eagle on the panel. What do you think the judge is going to say if she actually puts all this in a motion and makes the formal request to the court?
Julie, I think it's going to be a hard no, and I don't know that the judge is going to treat it as humorously as we are. And I think that Michael really hit upon it when he talked about the narcissism. I mean, as with Brian Walshe, this is a woman who has children. And that seems not to factor into any of her decisions, as with Brian Walshe. And it's there's a very sad and tragic aspect to this as well.
Right. Oh, Ben, you're so right. I mean, when you think about it, she's lucky she's not in jail, because what's alleged here is an attempted homicide. It's alleged, but that's still the crime that's been charged here. So she's fortunate. Like, love that ankle bracelet. You embrace it. It's good for you. It gives you freedom. So yeah, she's something else. We've got some more information about this. Apparently, these job offers include modeling, influencing work for a fashion boutique. She's saying also that while she tries to hide the embarrassing bracelet as best she can, she has to skip some routines, things like swimming and, go to the beach, things like that. Rachel LaForce, your thoughts on this minor inconvenience and her shot at modeling?
I'll tell you what, my heart goes out to her. I mean, what a tough gig, You don't get the routine of going to the beach. Sweetheart, that's not a routine, okay? That's a privilege, that is a choice. And I will, what we've commented on, the narcissistic aspect of it, and that's the part where it's like, there's not any sympathy here, because we don't have empathy for you, because you're clearly the person's like, well, I deserve to be at the front of the line. I deserve to be, this is what happens, my friend, whether you did it or not, regardless of this is what happens, and you were a part of the process, you get to wear the bracelet, congratulations.
There's your prize. Right. I mean, I think her conditional release really isn't bad. She can travel in the United States and has, obviously, that's where she is now. She just has to keep it on at all times and be at all the court hearings in the Bahamas. She has to stay at her parents' house in Alabama. She's got to stay away from Robert. That's an obvious one, and his home. And she's only permitted in Georgia for divorce or custody matters. So kind of makes me wonder if it's modeling that has her attracted to Georgia, or if it's just, being closer to Robert, maybe. Who knows? All right. So I have some quotes from a previous court appearance. This was read by the prosecution. Details some of this case and some of the allegations, where she's saying to her co-defendants that she wanted to, quote, her word, kill her husband, Robert. After her conditional release, her attorney released this statement saying her defense will look forward to vigorously defending Lindsay because she is innocent. All right, so she allegedly asked her lover to get this hitman, who's like an aspiring rapper, there's that, to kill her husband, Robert. A lot of text messages exchanged that police caught on to. But let's dig in. Is there really enough evidence to prove that she did want this homicide to occur? It's one thing to write something in a text, but in terms of the evidence, what's really, really there? Ben Chu, I would love to start with you this time on this one. Your thoughts, please.
Well, we talked about this the other week about circumstantial evidence and this distinction sometimes people make between evidence and circumstantial evidence. And I think the circumstantial evidence here is very strong. And it's something that she may want to take the stand to address, to say, sure, I said this, but I didn't mean it. I love my husband, the father of my children, that kind of thing. I think she may, unlike Brian Walshe, I think she may be in a position where she needs to testify.
Right, but that's an excellent point, because if we don't have all the corroborating evidence to support the statement, a statement alone, as you know, can't really hold water at the end of the day, at least in the United States courts. We know this is a Bahamian court, so a bit different. Thank you for that. Lieutenant Gould, your assessment of the evidence, if you think this plot was really going to go down if it wasn't foiled by the police.
Yeah, Julie, it's interesting. I don't rely heavily on text. I mean, we all have made inappropriate text. I don't drink, but I've seen people drunk text, and a lot of that can be taken out of context. However, I thought there was a confession So I would be interested in the confession and how that was. She recanted supposedly during the confession both guilt and innocence at the same time, but I haven't been privy to that. But I'd be careful with this. It's circumstantial, and when you're going to sentence somebody to 60 years for conspiring to kill the father of your children, we still have to understand she has a presumption of innocence.
Right. That is important, Lieutenant. Thank you. I have a look at some testimony from hubby Robert, ex-hubby Robert Shiver, during a previous court hearing. When the judge asked him about his concerns, he said, quote, "The physical and mental safety for my kids and myself, I'm thankful to be alive." He said, after reviewing the indictment, this was a situation close to happening. I'm concerned for the safety of myself. So he believes he was in danger here. Rachel LaForce, tell us what you think about this and what's going to happen when the trial goes next year.
It'll be something to watch, that I know.
Yes.
I don't know, you know, it's so hard sometimes because, again, what is our intent when we say something? And I know if I was held in a court of even, you know, X or TikTok for anything that I have said,
right.
I would also probably be going, well, I don't know how much I really
You'd
said
be calling Ben Chu.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly right. I've got your number. And so I think it's going to be really interesting. But I think that certainly when anyone, and I know it's different when it's a woman saying that she felt unsafe versus a man, and that's something to consider. But I think it's definitely something that we need to take a look at and really think about what are the implications behind that. But it's going to be interesting to watch.
Right. You know, and I love that point you just made. That's maybe a perfect point to end on because, you know, we were just discussing, you know, the Walshe case. So like you said, Ben, you know, where it's a man and he allegedly killed his wife, and you usually see things that way most often. I'm not saying that spouses that are female don't commit homicides. They do. We've seen it. But it's statistics show it's more often the men. So this is interesting that you hope that doesn't work to his disadvantage here. We're going to leave it here. We're going to follow her petition. We're going to see what happens when the judge receives this and reads it, and we'll see what kind of order or denial follows. Been a great discussion with you all. Rachel LaForce, Ben Chu, Lieutenant Mike Gould. Thank you all so very much. Coming up next here on Opening Statements.
You will hear evidence in this case of sudden, unexplained death. You will hear evidence that it is grief.
A doctor joins me live next to talk about sudden death syndrome and how common it is with adults. Plus, accused assassin Luigi Mangione back in the courtroom, and his supporters, they are dressing up and speaking out.
If I had crossed the state lines and gotten away with it, I wouldn't bring the book bag to a public place, you know, and then be turned in and have it found. It's too fishy. It's too easy. No one is gonna commit a crime like this and then present themselves with a bow on it and then sit in courtroom and claim not guilty. It's too hasty.
Welcome back. Just one day into the Brian Walshe murder trial, our spotlight is focusing on a stunning claim that emerged during opening statements. The defense team saying that Brian Walshe did not murder his wife, Anna, but rather she died due to sudden, unexplained death.
He doesn't understand what has happened and what is happening. It didn't make any sense to him. You will hear evidence in this case of sudden, unexplained death. You will hear evidence that it is grief. You will hear evidence that it happens. It is to this day not well understood, and that is the evidence you will hear. And it is not well known to non-medical professionals. And you will hear evidence Brian Walshe never imagined somebody suddenly died. 1 hour he's with her, he cleans the kitchen, he comes back up, and she is dead.
You heard it mentioned right there, sudden, unexplained death. Rare and not well understood, according to Walsh's defense attorney. So is he right? And if he is right, does that prove that that's what happened to Anna Walshe? Let's talk about it. Let's welcome in board-certified emergency medicine physician, Dr. Owais Durrani. Good morning, Doc. Nice to see you. So tell us, what is this sudden, unexplained death that can happen with adults, apparently?
Yeah, good to be with you. So I would say it in the medical world, we call it a diagnosis of exclusion. So if someone is young and healthy and they pass away and an autopsy is done and we rule out every other thing that, possibly could have led to cardiac arrest or death and we don't find anything, then a lot of times it is labeled as that. I would say in about half the cases, if you do what we call like a molecular autopsy, so go beyond like the normal autopsy and look at genetic causes and whatnot, usually there's some type of cardiac issue that is identified, not a structural issue, but an issue with the electrical systems and pumps of the heart, essentially.
Dr. Durrani, do you typically see some kind of underlying factor in the body with these cases?
So no, not usually. So usually if you were to get like an echocardiogram, which is like a picture of the heart, the chambers, the sizes of the walls, everything would look normal. The most common way it's identified in living people is usually you will have a relative, like a first-degree cousin or an uncle or someone who dies unexplained at a young age. And so then what happens is the family becomes worried. You go see a doctor, they may get an EKG, and that is something that could tip you off to, hey, there's an abnormality here, let's get a further workup, and usually you'll get genetic testing in that case as well.
Wow. Dr. Durrani, how common or uncommon is this with adults in America?
Yeah, so I would say it's not very common at all. There's about 100 deaths per 100,000 people. So it's not completely like impossible or, unheard of, but it's also fairly rare. It is one of those things. I'm an emergency medicine physician, and anytime anyone comes in for like lightheadedness or chest pain or trouble breathing, the thing that every single one of those patients gets is an EKG. And that's the reason for it. There's certain things that we can identify on an EKG that would clue us in towards, hey, maybe this patient has one of these genetic abnormalities leading to a potential fatal heart rhythm. And so then we can kind of get the cardiologist involved, get more testing and see if they really have it or not.
Wow, this is really scary. I mean, when we look at pictures of Anna Walshe, she's young and vibrant, 39 years old, beautiful. She's at a healthy weight. It's hard to think that this woman could die suddenly and unexplainably. But it sounds like what you're saying, Dr. Durrani, is that this can happen.
Yes, yeah, I would say it can happen. It's not frequent. It's not common. The average, 30 or 40 or 20-year-old listening to this, it's probably not going to happen to you. Usually, like I kind of mentioned, it is something that is genetic. And so usually you have like a parent who maybe had a family member who, died unexplainably, and their, kind of red flag is up, and they're probably going to get their kids genetically tested early, or maybe it happened to them and thankfully they didn't pass away and they got the treatment for it. And for a lot of these things, you can be put on a medication, or in certain cases you get a defibrillator and you live a totally normal, healthy life. So it's possible, but it's definitely not common. I don't want to scare people to think this is going to happen to them or anything like that.
No, we appreciate it, Doc. We appreciate your honesty. So for anybody watching this program who might have unfortunately had the awful experience of losing a relative unexplainably at a young, healthy age, and they were told by the doctors, yeah, it's this sudden unexplained death. What advice would you have for those relatives in terms of what they need to ask their doctors about in order to make sure they're covering their bases, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. And prevention is the number one thing, the most important thing. So I would go to a primary care doctor, and usually, a family will see the same primary care doctor, which is good, right? So I would, as a family, go to the primary care doctor, kind of mention what happened to them. In that case, usually they will get an EKG and kind of look for those signs of abnormalities. If those exist, what they'll likely do is get the cardiologist involved, and then they do a variety of other tests, like an EKG, a stress test where you get on a treadmill and you're hooked hooked up to an EKG. They may get some imaging of the heart, and then they might do some genetic testing as well to see if kind of the markers for something like one of these things. There's a variety of them. One of them is like called Brugada. One of them is called long QT syndrome. They'll kind of look for those things and see if they exist. And if they do, like I mentioned, these are things that we have treatments for. And so usually you'll get those treatments and live a long, healthy life.
Yes, that is the hope. Boy, this is fascinating insight that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Owais Durrani. We really appreciate you. I would love to have you back sometime soon.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Take good care. And just a reminder, we're just a few minutes away from court resuming in Dedham, Massachusetts. We're about to start day 2 of the Brian Walshe murder trial. This is a live look at the courtroom and the lovely ceiling fan. That's coming up when Court TV Live begins at 9. But first, we're taking you to New York as supporters of defendant Luigi Mangione are hoping to see a second chance for the accused killer. We'll talk about how the support may tip the scales of justice.
This week,
the disappearance of Anna Walshe. Did a suspected affair lead to murder? We'll get you ready for each day in the case against Brian Walshe.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
It touches 2 nerves in the American public. 1, death and crime, and 2, insurance, health insurance, and money, and how you can die because a claim is denied. And meanwhile, the health insurance company makes more money.
Luigi Mangione and all of his supporters are returning to the courthouse today as his attorneys are trying to get some key evidence thrown out of his murder case. So this is in state court where the petitioning is going on. These are some shots of what was happening outside. Just look at this. Wow. Supporters with digital trucks. Those are very expensive. Signs for the 27-year-old. He's accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Some 24 supporters went into the courtroom to watch the proceedings as well. Most of them were women. One woman did acknowledge Thompson's death.
Brian Thompson, he is still a human being, you know, like nobody should kill anyone really. But yeah, he is still a human being. He still has a family, as does Luigi, you know. Everyone is under a lot of stress and all in all different ways. And it's just about being, it's about being compassionate.
The hearing could last several days as Mangione's lawyers are trying to limit what can come into case evidence. They want to exclude a 3D printed handgun. They want to exclude his journal entries. They want to exclude the 911 call from the McDonald's where he was arrested in Pennsylvania. The allegations are that police illegally searched his backpack without a warrant and failed to advise him of his rights pursuant to Miranda versus Arizona. So will those arguments tip the scales of justice? Let's talk about it with our attorneys. Let's bring back in our legal eagles, Rick Grundy and Ben Chu. Rick, let me start with you, please. Do you think anything in the defense requests for suppression may have some legs here?
Well, I probably don't know enough about the ins and outs of this to say definitively, but with respect to the Miranda, obviously that's something we've seen thrown up against the wall in many, many cases where there's a statement. The question here is, was he in fact in police custody at that point in time? Did this occur at the McDonald's? Did this occur after he was brought to the police station? A little bit of both. And more importantly, probably at that point in time, did they believe that they had probable cause to place him under arrest? If either the answer to either of those is no, then the Miranda is, again, far more particularized than people seem to believe. And that would not have merit here.
Rick, thank you for that. I want to play a clip from one of his supporters talking about whether Luigi Mangione can get a fair trial.
The issue of this United Healthcare CEO being shot is so large and touches so many Americans that I think it's almost impossible to find someone who would be unbiased and could just hear the evidence in the courtroom. You'd have to be living under a rock and have never had anyone who was ever affected by the healthcare system ever in your life, and that's impossible.
All right, Ben Chu, you know I want to go to you on this. You know what it's like to have a trial that not just people in America are watching, but people around the world are watching. You've done it. What are your thoughts on whether, in this case, Luigi Mangione, as the defendant, can get a fair trial?
Julie, I do think he can get a fair trial. I'm a strong believer in the jury system, and I don't think, as you know, motions to transfer venue are rarely successful, and I don't think it would be any more or less fair anywhere else. So I think the trial is going to stay here, and I think the jury will do justice and hopefully will not conflate any public policy issues with the fact that even one of his supporters, and I was happy to hear it, acknowledged that this is about a murder of a man, with a family in cold blood.
Exactly, Ben. Rick, you know what it's like to serve as a prosecutor. If I think anybody ought to be concerned about not getting a fair trial, I think it's the state of New York. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to bring ghosts out of the closet, but it's some similar situation with respect to Karen Reed, where we saw just these throngs of people openly with a mind made up of the innocence of Karen Reed at the courthouse every day, loud, proud, and in control of the outside of that courtroom. And that, believe it or not, that is a hurdle for the prosecution to get over physically, mentally, and emotionally in trying that case before a jury who cannot be sequestered efficiently from any or all of that.
Right. I have a graphic I want to put up on the screen for everyone to see. So we know the 911 call is at issue. This call was placed on December the 9th. The manager from McDonald's is who placed the call, saying in part, quote, I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, and he looks like the CEO shooter from New York. So they're really upset, and they've come to me. He goes on to say he's wearing a black jacket, a medical mask, a tan beanie. The only thing you can see is his eyebrows. Okay, so this gets a little tricky here. So the Mangione defense team, who is excellent, by the way, the Agnifilos are representing him. We saw Mark Agnifilo representing Sean Combs recently and successfully. He and his wife, Karen, are representing him. And it seems that they're taking issue with the fact that this manager didn't make the identification himself. He's reliant upon what was said to him, hearsay statements. It seems like they're trying, they're trying to keep it out. Ben, tell me, do you think that ultimately the court will keep it out, or should the court let it in?
This is a more interesting one, and I'd also be interested in Rick's thoughts on this. I think there's a chance that this might be excluded. This is hearsay, but it may fit in. On the other hand, it may fit into one of the many exceptions to the hearsay rule.
Yeah, this is interesting. I know it gets tricky, like a law school problem, doesn't it? Rick, quickly, what do you think? You think they ought to let it in or keep it out?
I think it comes in. I think if nothing else, it's an excited utterance. It's a 911 call. It's immediate information that he's relaying. There's an argument that it's not being offered for the truth of the matter. This is the state of mind of the investigators as they were dispatched to the McDonald's and what they were looking for, and the jury can be appropriately advised of that and take that into consideration.
Right. Thank you for that, Rick. I suppose we'll see. Oh, we are out of time. But thank you so much for the great discussion. Attorneys Rick Grundy and Ben Chu, we appreciate your time and the great analysis. And friends at home, we appreciate you watching. That is it for this episode of Opening Statements. You can watch it again, share it with your friends. Go to courttv.com to do that. Just click on the Shows tab.